I never expected my life would transform so dramatically over something as simple as money. At 32 years old, I thought I knew what love was when Jessica walked into my world. For 2 years, we built what I believed was a dream relationship. Her warm smile and caring nature made every day brighter, until slowly those qualities morphed into something controlling and possessive. The first red flag waved when she questioned every purchase I made, no matter how small. Looking back, I should have seen what was coming. Before I share this wild journey, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever ignored relationship red flags. Trust me, this story might save you some heartache. My name is Keith, and I built my career in Seattle's competitive tech landscape. Growing up in a middle-class neighborhood in Portland, my parents instilled in me the value of financial responsibility. They could not afford to pay for my college education, so I worked 2 jobs while taking full course loads. Graduating with $20,000 in student loans felt overwhelming, but I created a strict repayment plan. Landing a junior software engineering position at a promising startup came after 67 applications and 12 interviews. The starting salary was modest, but I lived frugally in a tiny studio apartment with secondhand furniture. Every month I allocated 30% of my income to loan repayments, 20% to savings, and forced myself to live on the rest. 4 years later, my persistence paid off. My loans disappeared, and my savings account grew healthier each month. I moved to a better apartment, treated myself occasionally, but maintained my disciplined approach to finances. By 30, I had diversified investments, a 6-month emergency fund, and was considering buying property. Then came Jessica. It was a warm July evening at my colleague Mark's barbecue when our paths crossed. She arrived with mutual friends wearing a sundress that caught the golden hour light perfectly. Her laugh carried across the backyard, infectious and full of life. When she accidentally spilled her drink on my shirt, our conversation flowed as naturally as the beer Mark kept serving. Engineers are usually so boring, she teased, her hazel eyes sparkling. But you actually have interesting things to say. We exchanged numbers, and 3 days later I took her to dinner at a waterfront restaurant. Jessica worked as a marketing coordinator for a local fashion brand. Her passion for her work mirrored my own dedication to coding. Our conversation stretched into the early morning hours, covering everything from childhood memories to future aspirations. Our relationship blossomed quickly. Weekends became adventures. Hiking through Olympic National Park, exploring hidden coffee shops downtown, or simply cooking elaborate meals in my kitchen. Jessica introduced me to art galleries and live music venues I never knew existed. I showed her the beauty of stargazing away from city lights and the satisfaction of building something with your own hands. 6 months and everything felt right. Jessica supported my career ambitions and celebrated each promotion or successful project. I cheered her on through marketing campaigns and client presentations. We balanced each other perfectly, her spontaneity pulling me out of my structured routines, my stability grounding her creative whirlwind. After 14 months of dating, moving in together seemed the natural next step. We spent weekends touring apartments, debating neighborhoods, and discussing our must-haves. Finally, we found a spacious 2-bedroom with large windows and a view of the Cascade Mountains in the distance. The rent stretched my budget slightly, but Jessica insisted it was perfect. And seeing her excitement, I agreed. The day we signed the lease, she hugged me tightly. "This is the beginning of our future," she whispered. Moving day arrived, with the chaos of merging 2 separate lives into one space. Jessica had far more possessions than I anticipated. Clothing that required 2 full closets, expensive art pieces, and designer furniture that clashed with my practical items. When I suggested selling some duplicates, her expression darkened momentarily. "Your stuff is so basic," she remarked, wrinkling her nose at my comfortable but worn couch. "We should keep my things. They actually have style." I let it go, attributing her comment to moving stress. But similar moments accumulated in our first weeks of cohabitation. Jessica complained about my early morning routine disturbing her sleep. She rearranged my carefully organized workspace without asking. Small things easily dismissed. Then came the first financial comment that should have alerted me. While reviewing my monthly budget spreadsheet, a habit since college, Jessica peered over my shoulder. "Why do you track every single dollar like that?" "It is so uptight," she said, frowning at my screen. "You make good money. You should enjoy it more. This system helped me become debt-free," I explained. "Financial security matters to me." Well, your spending habits are honestly kind of boring, she replied, walking away. 2 weeks later, our first genuine argument erupted. I received a notification of a $2,000 charge on our newly created shared expenses account, meant only for rent, utilities, and groceries. Jessica had purchased a designer handbag. I thought this account was just for essentials, I said, confused. Looking professional is essential for my career, she countered, defensive. Anyway, I thought you wanted to support me. I do support you, but we agreed on how this account would be used, I explained. Jessica's eyes filled with tears. I cannot believe you are making me feel guilty about one purchase when you spend hundreds on your stupid tech gadgets. Rather than escalate the situation, I apologized and suggested we clarify our financial boundaries. Jessica brightened immediately, hugging me and promising to discuss big purchases in the future. I convinced myself this was just an adjustment period, learning to blend two different financial perspectives. But over dinner the following week, Jessica began questioning my salary details, investment portfolio, and savings accounts with increasing specificity. We are building a life together, she reasoned. Couples should not have financial secrets. Something in her tone made me uneasy, but I dismissed the feeling. After all, relationships require trust and openness. Right. The changes in our relationship happened so gradually that each individual moment seemed insignificant until I looked at the pattern. Jessica began making subtle comments about my closest friends, questioning their motives, highlighting their flaws. Dave only calls when he needs something from you, she observed after my childhood friend canceled plans. And have you noticed how Sarah always undermines your achievements? When I defended them, Jessica would sigh dramatically. I am just looking out for you. You cannot see how they take advantage of your kindness. My weekly game nights dwindled to monthly, then stopped altogether. Family gatherings became battlegrounds of tension. During a dinner with my parents, Jessica corrected my stories and spoke over me repeatedly. Later, she complained the entire drive home about how my mother clearly favored my brother's girlfriend. Your family never tries to make me feel welcome, she insisted, despite my parents going out of their way to accommodate her dietary preferences and interests. Meanwhile, financial discussions became increasingly fraught. What began as suggestions transformed into demands. We should merge our checking accounts, Jessica announced one evening. Keeping separate finances feels like you do not trust me. When I suggested maintaining some financial independence alongside a joint account, her expression hardened. Most couples share everything. Are you not committed to us? The emotional manipulation worked. I agreed to increase our shared account funding while maintaining a separate personal account, though I did not disclose my investment portfolio or emergency savings. Something instinctive held me back from complete financial transparency. 3 months after moving in together, I discovered why. While using Jessica's laptop to print concert tickets with her permission, an email notification appeared. Your credit card payment is overdue. Minimum payment required $763. Concerned, I mentioned it that evening. I saw a credit card notification on your computer today. Everything okay financially? Jessica's face flushed with anger. You were snooping through my emails. No, it popped up while I was printing. I just wanted to make sure you are all right. That seemed like a high minimum payment. After initial defensiveness, Jessica broke down crying, admitting she had accumulated nearly $26,000 in credit card debt across 6 cards. The revelation stunned me. We had discussed financial values extensively, and she had always presented herself as financially savvy. Shopping helps when I am stressed, she sobbed, and keeping up appearances for my job is expensive. I did not want you to think less of me. My heart softened at her vulnerability. I offered to help create a debt repayment plan, drawing on my experience eliminating student loans. Jessica agreed tearfully, seeming genuinely grateful. The next day, I spent hours developing a reasonable budget that would address her debt while maintaining our lifestyle. When I presented it, Jessica's gratitude had vanished. This is ridiculous, she scoffed, pointing to the clothing allowance. $200 a month. My image is crucial for my career. The plan allocates 40% of your income to debt repayment, I explained gently. That means cutting back temporarily in other areas. Why do I have to sacrifice everything while you hoard your savings? She snapped. If you really loved me, you would help pay this off. I was stunned. Jessica, these are purchases you made before we even met. The argument escalated until Jessica stormed out, returning, hours later acting as though nothing had happened. She never mentioned the budget again, and I discovered later that she had applied for another credit card the very next day. Work became my sanctuary, until Jessica began intruding there too. During a crucial presentation to potential investors, my phone vibrated repeatedly with texts. Emergency. Call me now. Concerned, I stepped out briefly between speakers. When I called, Jessica was upset about a parking ticket. Not a genuine emergency by any definition. This pattern repeated emergencies that required immediate attention during important meetings, client calls, or deadlines. My colleagues noticed and my manager pulled me aside to discuss my personal distractions. The most alarming incident occurred when Jessica showed up at my office unannounced during a closed-door session with my team. She charmed the receptionist into letting her through security, then interrupted our meeting with lunch. "Because you forgot to eat breakfast and I worry about you." My team members exchanged uncomfortable glances, while my manager's expression conveyed clear disapproval. That evening, I tried discussing appropriate boundaries. "You humiliated me professionally today," I explained. "I was being thoughtful," she countered. Most girlfriends would get appreciation, not criticism, for such a loving gesture. But the true breach of trust came 6 months into our cohabitation. I received an unusual email from my investment firm. "Confirmation of your recent request to add an authorized user." I had made no such request. Calling immediately, I learned someone had attempted to add Jessica to my investment account using my personal information. The attempt failed only because it required in-person verification. When confronted, Jessica claimed she was just trying to understand our combined financial picture for our future. But her unauthorized attempt to access accounts worth over $150,000 sent ice through my veins. That night I could not sleep. Jessica snored peacefully beside me, while my mind raced with unsettling realizations. The next morning my phone rang. Jessica's mother, Diane. Diane and I had always maintained a polite but distant relationship. Her calls typically involved lengthy justifications of Jessica's behavior or subtle suggestions about my shortcomings as a partner. "Keith, Jessica told me you got upset over a simple misunderstanding with your accounts," Diane began. "She was only trying to help organize things. You know how efficient she is. With all due respect, attempting to access someone's financial accounts without permission is not a misunderstanding," I replied. Diane sighed dramatically. "Well, when you are truly committed to someone, these distinctions should not matter. Jessica has always been careful with money. She just wants security." The irony of this statement from the mother of someone with massive hidden credit card debt was not lost on me. But this conversation revealed something crucial. Jessica was distorting events to make me appear unreasonable, and her mother enabled this behavior. As the months progressed, Jessica's financial demands became explicit ultimatums. "If you really loved me, you would add me to your accounts. A real partnership means sharing everything. My friend Melissa's husband gives her complete access to their finances." The pressure extended to my social circle. Jessica began telling mutual friends I was financially controlling and secretive. People who had known me for years suddenly viewed me with suspicion. One friend pulled me aside at a gathering. "Is everything okay with you and Jessica? She mentioned you have been really strict with money lately. My physical health deteriorated under the constant stress. I lost 12 pounds, developed persistent insomnia, and caught every cold that circulated the office. My work performance suffered, jeopardizing the career I had built so carefully." Sensing my increasing resistance, Jessica escalated her tactics. She accidentally opened my bank statements, questioned every purchase, and criticized my financial choices openly in front of friends. When I received a performance bonus, she immediately suggested using it for a luxury purchase she wanted. Realizing I needed professional guidance, I secretly consulted both a financial advisor and a lawyer. They helped me understand I was experiencing financial abuse and outlined steps to protect my assets. I began documenting every incident, secured my personal documents, and changed all my passwords. Meanwhile, Jessica planned an extravagant vacation to Bali, presenting it as a relationship healing opportunity. The estimated cost exceeded $11,000. "You will be covering this, right?" she asked casually. "Since I paid for dinner last weekend." That dinner had cost $80. The disparity was breathtaking. "We should discuss what we can each contribute," I suggested carefully. Jessica's expression darkened. After everything I do for this relationship, you cannot even treat me to one vacation. Maybe I need to reconsider whether you are the right partner for me. It was the latest in a series of ultimatums that had become her favorite tactic. But unknown to Jessica, I was reaching my breaking point. The scales were falling from my eyes, and I was beginning to see our relationship for what it truly was. The moment everything shattered happened, on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday evening. I received a fraud alert from my credit card company about an unusual transaction, a $4,000 charge at a luxury department store. When I called to investigate the customer service, representative confirmed the card had been physically presented at the store just 30 minutes earlier. My stomach dropped. I had never lost my wallet, but Jessica knew where I kept my backup credit card. I checked the drawer. Empty. 3 hours later, Jessica breezed through our apartment door carrying multiple shopping bags emblazoned with designer logos. She wore new earrings that caught the light and a watch I had never seen before. "Had a good shopping trip?" I asked, my voice steady, despite my racing heart. "Just picked up a few things for the charity gala next month," she replied casually, setting down her bags. "You will not be embarrassed by your girlfriend's appearance." "And how did you pay for all this?" I asked, already knowing the answer. Jessica waved dismissively. "I used the emergency card in your drawer. Do not worry, it was a great sale. I actually saved us money. You took my credit card without asking and spent $4,000 without my knowledge or consent," I stated flatly. "Do not be dramatic. We live together. What is yours is mine." She rolled her eyes. "Anyway, I needed these things." "That was not your decision to make," I replied, struggling to maintain my composure. "That credit card is in my name only. You had no right to use it." Jessica's expression transformed from dismissive to outraged in an instant. "Are you serious right now? After everything I do for you, you are quibbling over a few purchases. $4,000 is not a few purchases. This is theft, Jessica." She laughed incredulously. "Theft? From your boyfriend? Do not be ridiculous. Besides, with what you make, you can afford it. You are just being cheap and controlling. This is not about the amount. It is about respect and boundaries," I explained, feeling strangely calm despite the confrontation. "You cannot take what is not yours without permission." Jessica's face contorted with anger. She stepped closer, jabbing her finger toward my chest. "You know what your problem is. You care more about your precious money than our relationship. A real man would be happy to provide for his girlfriend." When I remained silent, her voice rose to a shout. "Is that really the hill you want to die on? Your stupid financial boundaries? This relationship has become unhealthy," I said quietly. "I think we need to reconsider reconcile. After everything I have sacrificed for you," she screamed, her face flushed with rage. "Do as I say or get lost." In that moment, something crystallized within me. The fog of manipulation that had clouded my judgment for months suddenly lifted. I saw with perfect clarity what our relationship had become. Not a partnership, but a power struggle. Not love, but control. Without a word, I walked to our bedroom closet and pulled out her suitcase. "What are you doing?" Jessica demanded, following me. "Taking your advice," I replied calmly, opening the suitcase on our bed. "I am getting lost." "You cannot be serious," she scoffed, but uncertainty crept into her voice. I began methodically removing her clothes from the closet, folding them carefully into the suitcase. When that one filled, I retrieved another from storage. "Stop this right now," Jessica shrieked, grabbing clothes from the suitcase and throwing them on the floor. "You are being childish." I continued packing my movements, deliberate and unhurried. Jessica's tactics cycled rapidly, from rage to tears, from threats to sudden affection. She grabbed my arm, tried to kiss me, then slapped me when I gently disengaged. "You will regret this," she hissed, her voice, low and dangerous. "I will tell everyone what a controlling, abusive partner you were." "Tell them whatever you want," I replied, zipping the second suitcase. The truth always reveals itself eventually. As I packed her toiletries and personal items, Jessica made frantic phone calls. To friends, to her mother, painting herself as the victim of sudden, inexplicable cruelty. I heard her sobbing into her phone. "He just snapped. I am scared. Can you come get me?" 3 hours later, every trace of Jessica's presence was packed, except for her newest purchases, which I left untouched on the couch, along with the receipt showing my credit card information. I carried each suitcase downstairs and arranged them neatly on the front lawn. When I returned for the final bag, Jessica blocked the door. "You cannot throw me out. My name is on the lease." "You are right," I acknowledged. "Legally, you can stay, but I am leaving. I will continue paying my portion of the rent until the lease ends in 4 months, but I will not live with someone who steals from me and refuses to respect boundaries." Her face crumpled at the realization that her leverage was evaporating. "Where will you go?" "That is no longer your concern," I replied. Jessica's manipulation tactics had one final surge. She collapsed to the floor, sobbing hysterically. "Please do not leave me. I love you. I will change. I will get therapy for my spending, please, Keith." 6 months earlier, this performance would have worked. I would have comforted her, forgiven her, and the cycle would have continued. But not today. "I've called you a rideshare. It will be here in 5 minutes," I said, placing the final bag outside. "Your mother said she will meet you at your place." "You talked to my mother." Jessica's tears vanished, instantly replaced by suspicion. "She called while you were in the shower." I explained the situation. Jessica's face darkened. "I bet you made me sound crazy. You always twist things." Rather than engage, I simply handed her the rideshare information and stepped back inside, closing the door gently but firmly. Through the window, I watched her alternate between furious text messaging, teary phone calls, and glaring at the apartment. When the car arrived, she left most of her bags on the lawn, taking only one small suitcase and her new purchases. The moment her car disappeared from view, I changed the locks, a violation of the lease agreement but a necessary precaution given her volatility. Then I contacted the credit card company to dispute the charges and report my card stolen. Finally, I called a locksmith to replace the building's exterior door code. The aftermath was predictable, yet still painful. Within hours, mutual friends began messaging me, some demanding explanations, others expressing concern about Jessica's version of events. She claimed I had physically intimidated her, financially controlled her throughout our relationship, and thrown her out with no warning because she finally stood up for herself. I responded to each message the same way I understand you have heard Jessica's perspective. I respect your friendship with her and do not expect you to take sides. I hope one day the full truth will become clear. Some friends accepted this diplomatic response. Others took Jessica's side immediately. A few reached out privately to share their own concerns about Jessica's behavior they had observed but never mentioned. The most surprising ally emerged 3 days later. Thomas, a friend I had known since college, called to check on me. "Man, I need to tell you something I should have told you months ago," he began hesitantly. "At your birthday party, Jessica cornered me in the kitchen. She was asking really specific questions about your finances, your salary savings, if you had mentioned buying property. When I said I did not know details, she got weirdly pushy, saying she was planning a financial surprise for you." Thomas paused, the way she was talking. It felt like she was mining for information, not planning a gift. "I got a bad feeling but did not want to cause problems in your relationship." "I am sorry, Keith." His revelation was quickly followed by others. Jessica had questioned multiple friends about my finances, had joked about accessing my investment accounts once we were married, had even researched common-law marriage requirements in our state. Despite changing my locks and phone number, Jessica found ways to continue her harassment campaign. She showed up at my workplace until security was instructed to deny her entry. She created fake social media profiles to message me. She sent formal-looking but legally meaningless invoices for her emotional labor during our relationship. I documented everything, consulted with a lawyer about a potential restraining order, and focused on rebuilding my mental health. Each day without her manipulation felt like emerging from a dark tunnel into sunlight, painful for eyes accustomed to darkness but gradually healing. Then came the call I never expected. 3 days after the breakup, my phone displayed an unknown number. Normally, I would have ignored it, fearing another of Jessica's tactics, but something compelled me to answer. "Keith." The voice was familiar, but uncharacteristically subdued. "This is Diane, Jessica's mother." I remained silent, bracing for accusations or demands. I owe you an apology," she continued, her voice breaking. "And I think you deserve to know the truth about Jessica." The conversation with Jessica's mother lasted nearly 2 hours, revealing patterns I had been too close to see clearly. Diane was calling from her sister's house, where she had gone to get some perspective after witnessing Jessica's behavior following our breakup. This is not the first time, Diane admitted, her voice thick with emotion. There have been others before you. 3 serious relationships, all ending the same way. According to Diane, Jessica's first boyfriend in college had been a pre-med student from a wealthy family. When he refused to fund her shopping habits, she spread rumors about emotional abuse that followed him through his medical school applications. Her second target was an accountant, who discovered she had opened credit cards in his name. The third was a real estate agent whose investment property she tried to claim partial ownership of, despite contributing nothing to its purchase. I always believed her side, Diane confessed, sobbing quietly. She would tell me these men were controlling, abusive, or cheating. I never questioned it. What mother wants to think? Her daughter is the problem. The pattern was consistent. Jessica sought out financially stable partners, gradually isolated them from support systems, then escalated financial manipulation until they either complied or ended the relationship. Those who resisted were subjected to smear campaigns designed to destroy their reputations. When she came to my house that night after you packed her things, something was different, Diane continued. Usually she is devastated, the heartbroken victim. This time she was enraged, fixated on your investment, saying you owed her, after wasting 2 years of her life. Diane described how Jessica had openly plotted to damage my professional reputation and extract financial compensation through threats of false accusations. It was this vindictive planning that finally pierced Diane's maternal denial. I raised her better than this, Diane whispered. I do not know where I went wrong. I assured her that Jessica's behavior reflected her own choices, not parental failure. We ended the call with Diane promising to encourage her daughter to seek professional help, though both of us recognized Jessica would likely reject any suggestion that she needed changing. In the weeks that followed, I devoted myself to understanding how I had become entangled in such an unhealthy relationship. Therapy sessions revealed painful insights. My childhood as a peacekeeper in a volatile family had trained me to prioritize harmony over boundaries. My financial discipline, born from necessity, had made me an attractive target for someone seeking security without responsibility. Financial abuse follows patterns similar to other forms of domestic abuse, my therapist explained. It begins subtly, escalates gradually, and relies on the victim's reluctance to acknowledge red flags. These sessions helped me recognize early warning signs I had ignored: Jessica's inconsistent stories about her financial past, her dismissive attitude toward my financial boundaries, her immediate escalation to emotional manipulation when questioned, her efforts to isolate me from friends who might have recognized the pattern. Healing came slowly, but steadily. I reconnected with neglected friendships, rebuilt my professional reputation, and gradually reclaimed my financial security. The unauthorized credit card charges were reversed after investigation. My investment accounts remained secure thanks to my hesitation to share full access. 6 months after the breakup, I happened to see Jessica at a coffee shop downtown with a well-dressed man who matched her previous pattern perfectly. Successful, somewhat older, visibly attentive to her every word. For a moment, our eyes met across the room. Her expression flashed between surprise, calculation, and forced indifference before she deliberately turned away, laughing too loudly at something her companion said. Instead of the anger or anxiety such an encounter might have triggered months earlier, I felt an unexpected emotion: gratitude. Grateful for the painful but necessary awakening. Grateful for escaping before more damage was done. Grateful for the clarity that only comes from facing difficult truths. The experience transformed my approach to relationships and self-worth. I established clearer boundaries, became more attentive to subtle red flags, and learned that genuine partnership requires mutual respect, especially around sensitive areas like finances. Through a support group for financial abuse survivors, I met others with similar stories. Men and women whose partners had used money as a weapon of control. Their experiences reinforced that financial abuse crosses gender, cultural, and economic boundaries. Most importantly, these connections showed me that vulnerability about painful experiences could become a source of strength and community rather than shame. Today, 2 years later, I approach relationships with both greater caution and greater authenticity. I no longer hide my values around financial responsibility, recognizing that the right partner will respect rather than exploit them. I have learned that love without boundaries is not love at all. It is submission. Most crucially, I discovered that walking away from toxic patterns is not failure, but courage. Sometimes the most powerful response to do as I say or get lost is simply to get lost, to remove yourself from manipulation and reclaim your autonomy. If my story resonates with you, remember this: your financial boundaries deserve respect. Your instincts about unease or manipulation are worth heeding. And no relationship should require surrendering your independence or security. What relationship red flags have you ignored that later became major issues? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story helped you recognize unhealthy patterns in your own relationships, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories that might just help you avoid similar situations. Remember, sharing these videos could help someone who is currently struggling to recognize financial abuse in their relationship. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I hope it gives you the courage to honor your boundaries and protect your well-being.